Welcome back to the 2 Minute Warning. Today I'm looking at the Las Vegas Raiders and determining whether or not Jon Gruden, the head coach, should be on the hot seat. But before getting to that topic, question for those of you viewing, you Raider fans, what do you guys think? Do you think Jon Gruden should be on the hot seat? I know you're fond of that coach and you think he probably hasn't had a lot to deal with and this remark might just be an insult, but overall, as a Raiders fan, your opinion, when do you think he should be getting the criticism he kind of is? But moving into it, Jon Gruden signed a 10-year, $10 million or $100 million deal, getting $10 million a year, and this is his fourth season, and he has not made the playoffs. His overall record is 19-29. There has been progress, for his first year, they're 4-12, then went 7-9, and this year was 8-8. So you can say Jon Gruden is taking the Raiders in the right direction, but you do want to see a big jump. You want to see this team become a playoff team for all you've invested into your head coach in Jon Gruden. So he hasn't been putting up a lot, but he has a great relationship with the owner, Mark Davis, and I don't see him getting fired anytime soon. But if this pattern continues of not making the playoffs, I do think the question will continue to rise. In Jon Gruden's defense, he does not have, the most superb team. However, against his defense, he does kind of make a good amount of decisions on the team's roster. I know he's not the GM, but he definitely has a large say on that roster. But he does have a good quarterback in Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is probably a top 15 quarterback in the NFL right now. Not, superb, but it's nothing the Raiders can't manage and work with. You got Josh Jacobs. He's arguably a top 10 running back. Offensive line, that's kind of fell apart. You made some questionable moves, kind of just giving away Rodney Hudson, yet re-signing Richie Incognito. That offensive line isn't great, and we know Derek Carr isn't amazing under pressure. I mean, no quarterback is, but statistically, Derek Carr is awful when there's a lot of pressure. Receiving core, it's not the greatest. Darren Waller, top 3 tight end in the league, but outside of him, your top guys being Henry Ruggs, John Brown, Willie Snead. Henry Ruggs did not turn out to be what you wanted. I mean, you picked him as the first receiver in the draft. Obviously, no one knew Justin Jefferson was going to be emerged to be the number 1 receiver out of that draft, but still, there were guys on the board such as CeeDee Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, that the Raiders more likely than not definitely should have considered over Henry Ruggs. But again, that's not Jon Gruden's fault, but just looking at what he has outside of his top 3 tight end, you're looking at a speedy receiving core with Henry Ruggs, John Brown, and Willie Snead. To me, that's kind of almost like a Ravens receiving core. You got Mark Andrews, your great tight end. You got a speedy receiver, Marquise Brown. Your third best receiver was Willie Snead, who just came from the Ravens. So this is kind of a Ravens receiving core, and a lot of people do look around the league as the Ravens is one of the bottom receiving core. However, Darren Waller is a huge X factor for that offense, and Derek Carr. So Jon Gruden doesn't have the most amount of weapons to work with, but it is nothing that he can't manage. However, again, in his defense, you're in a tough division. You're with the Kansas City Chiefs, and even if it stopped there, you're with arguably the best team in the NFL, but it doesn't stop there. You have to deal with the LA Chargers, who has an emerging Justin Herbert, a lethal Joey Bosa, a lethal Derwin James, and a brand new head coach in Brandon Staley, who might be the new hot guy of the new head coaches in the NFL. Denver Broncos, Drew Lock. That's kind of the only issue with the Broncos. They got a great secondary, good pass rush, good receiving core. Derek Carr, you're probably the third best quarterback in the league in your own division. And while I said he's top 15, it's not great when you're the third best in your division. So Jon Gruden, on offense, he does not have a lot to work with when it comes to competing for a playoff spot. And especially on defense, we know how weak that is. The right side of the defensive line is finally getting worked on. Jonathan Hankins, Yannick Ngakoue, they're starting to get some things there. But Jon Gruden, even with the 17th pick in the NFL draft, can't turn this team around out of nowhere. He needs a little more help. Get him not just an X-factor tight end, get him a number 1 receiver to coach and give Derek Carr a number 1 receiver to throw to. Get Jon Gruden the protection that he could coach and, allow Derek Carr to reach his full potential. Overall, Jon Gruden, I think has a very high IQ, but he took such a long break from the NFL and from coaching. He had a great stint with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He won with them. They traded for him, and it panned out. But ever since the Bucs, he took a huge break, and he never really did anything with the Bucs after. Yeah, that team didn't stick together to 100%, but overall, a huge break from the NFL, from being a head coach, and then just signing him out of nowhere for a 10-year, $100 million deal. You knew there was going to be risk. And I'm not saying it didn't pan out. There's still 7 years left on that deal. Who's to say he doesn't win 7 Super Bowls? That's unlikely, but we don't know, so we can't obviously say it didn't work out just because we do not know yet. So overall, to me, this very season, I don't think he should be on the hot seat. You didn't commit to this guy for 10 years just for him to bail out in the first 2 or 3. I still think he has a lot of potential. I still think he needs a better team around him to give him a fair analysis, and I don't expect him to make the playoffs this year. I don't think the Raiders are a playoff team when you got to deal with the Chiefs, you got to deal with the Chargers, and you saw the AFC alone is hard enough to make the playoffs. The Dolphins went 10-6 last year. They got bumped out of the playoffs. I don't have the Raiders winning 10 games this year. Maybe the 17th game could go in their favor, and maybe the 17th pick, they steal the number one gem out of the draft, and this thing could turn around. But overall, in my opinion, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, and I don't think that's entirely Jon Gruden's fault. To me, I don't think any coach, you could put it Sean McVay, Bill Belichick, this team isn't going to be a Super Bowl contender. Jon Gruden and the Raiders just need a little more time together to work things out, fix up the O-line since it's got kind of torn apart, find a number one receiver, get some guys on the defense, and I mean just anyone. Yannick Ngakoue was a great signing, a great start, but it can't end there. You got 7 rounds in the NFL draft to add some depth, and I do think this Raiders team will be right around 500 again, and we could see them improve from 8-8 to, I guess not 9-7 because of the 17th game, but maybe 9-8, still above 500, and the improvement will continue. I don't see a playoff push, but I don't think Jon Gruden should be on a hot seat just yet. It's way too early in his 10-year contract to bail now. Him and Mark Davis has such a great relationship. I don't see them separating ways this early, but if the pattern does continue and we're entering year 7 and he's only got 3 years left and he still hasn't made the playoffs, it's time to cut some ties. If he hasn't done it the first 7 years, he's not going to change anything in the last 3. So at this current rate, it doesn't look good, but I do think it is way too soon to move off of him. Like I said, comment down below. Do you think Jon Gruden should be on the hot seat? I want your Raiders' opinions. Don't come and insult me because I'm questioning it. You have to think yourself. It is a big question mark. We don't know what Jon Gruden is for the Raiders. So like I said, comment down below. What do you think they should do? And for my final answer, it is no as right now. But thanks for watching, guys. 2-1 warning.